Hey friends, Chelsea here with She Sews Seams. So today we're going to do a sew along. I'm just going to sew this with you guys, and you can sit and hang out with me if you want, or you can sew it along with me if you want to do this on the replay. But I just thought we'd get a little time to make something fun, and I can just talk like I'm good at. And let's see what we come up with. I have been seeing this like fuzzy cut of fabric all over Dollar Tree, and I have just been thinking, like, what can I possibly make with this? And a lot of you have been asking to see how to make one of my wet bags, which is a bag that has a shower curtain as the liner, and it's perfect for makeup or like carrying to and from the pool if you have like a damp bathing suit that you don't want to soak the rest of the stuff in your bag. There's a million purposes for this bag, but the one that I have posted quite a bit is like a little bit more advanced. So I'm taking it back a step, and we're going to do a single zipper, very simple bag, but I think you'll find if you make this bag, you're going to feel very accomplished because it looks really cool when it's done. Now, I will admit, I did not practice with this fabric, so we are flying by the seat of our pants here. But that is the first thing you're going to need. Is they have this in a bunch of colors. I wish I kind of would have picked up, they have this mustard yellow that I'm really into. So I may go back for some of that if this pans out. But we need one of these. And when you open that up, it's going to measure like a long strip. And what this is going to be is we're going to fold this in half and cut it. And this will be the base of your project, like the outside of your bag. Now, we need something to make this bag a little bit squishy. So if you're carrying makeup in it with glass, like foundation bottles, it doesn't crack and you have a little bit of padding. So I picked up a dish mat from the Dollar Tree, and I'm actually going to use 2 of these because they're not quite big enough. I want this to be a little bit bigger bag. So you could make a smaller version of this bag. You can really make it whatever measurement you want, truly, like... but I wanted to make it a little bit bigger because I want it to fit maybe 1 or 2 swimsuits when we come back from the pool. So we're going to get 2 of those dish drying mats, and we'll set those aside. The other thing that you will need is a shower curtain liner, also from the Dollar Tree. I am going to pull a zipper from these laundry mesh bags that I get at Dollar Tree. They come 3 to a pack, so that comes out to like, I don't know what, like 40 or 50 some cents, 42 cents. And you can cut this off and use the mesh for other projects like little kitchen scrubbies or whatever you want. You could make a soap loofah like to put in your shower. But today we're just going to focus on the zipper. And it is a plastic zipper, so if you want something a little bit more hardy, you could get Zipper by the Yard from Amazon. I've got that loaded in my Amazon store. I buy that stuff in bulk, and it is amazing. It is one of my favorite things to recommend to people. It comes with like 60 yards of zipper and a million pulls, and you have every color on hand for your projects. But for today, since we are making this Dollar Tree friendly, I'm going to use the mesh bag. And the last thing I decided to do is I bought this little graduation lanyard, not for the lanyard, but for the hardware. And this was $1.25. Now, I will say, again, this hardware is something you can buy in bulk when you look on Amazon. Again, this is also in my Amazon store. And it is something that you can pick up like where it's like a 60 pack for, I don't know, $7 or $8. And I pulled this from one of the jelly rolls I have. You could just use a scrap of something else that you have laying around. This is going to be for the wristlet that we're making, as well as the zipper tabs. So let's get into it. I'm going to start cutting up this fabric, and then we'll sew it together. Let's do it. The first step is I'm just going to take this and fold it across and see how big it is. So this ends up being, it's going to be 12 inches by 12 inches. So that is actually perfect because that will make a nice size bag that's not super big, but something that will definitely carry everything to and from the pool that is a little bit wet. Now, we are going to be sewing this shower curtain liner. So, and I'm cutting this directly in half, right at 12 inches. So my point being, you're not going to want to put something that's like dripping wet in this, obviously. But if you wring out your suit really well, which I would hope you probably would do, then it should get you home pretty well. Now I'm just laying this template piece right on top of my dish drying mat, and I'm just gonna cut it out. It's gonna be nice and squishy because this fabric is soft and then the drying mat is soft as well. You're going to very shortly, I'm gonna say the word quilt, but I don't want you to freak out. Basically, we're just sewing straight lines back and forth across it. So it will be quilted, but I don't want to offend anybody who's like a, a steady quilter on here, because that may not be what your definition is of quilting. So again, I'm just cutting this second piece, and we're going to cut this top piece off. So far, this has been pretty easy. Are you still with me? Now listen, save these extra pieces because you can make sunglass cases out of these. You could even make another little pouch if you wanted to, or a pencil bag, something kind of like long. Don't throw them away. The whole point of this is to make sure that we are using things up until the very, very end. I love sewing with scraps. It's one of my very favorite things to do because it keeps me thinking outside the box. All right. And then one last cut up the side. And look, we've got 2 lining pieces. Last thing I'm going to cut on this is the wristlet and the zipper tabs. So for this, I'm going to cut, this is 2.5 inches wide, which is actually perfect for the zipper tab. And I'm going to cut it, I don't know, let's do 14 inches long just for funsies. So that's going to be our wristlet. And then we just need to cut a couple of zipper tabs, and that's going to go in the end of our zipper once we cut it out of that mesh bag. And this will be helpful for stopping the zipper pull from coming off as you open and close the bag. Now you could just sew it into the bag, but this is a little bit nicer of a finish, and it's completely doable. So I don't want you to freak out when you see this if you're a beginner, because a lot of this stuff is very, very easy. It just might feel overwhelming at first because you've never done it before. And of course we get nervous when it's something we've never done before. We have to just give it a try and see how it goes. I'm gonna cut this 1.5 inches by 2 inches. Next step, we want to remove the zipper from this bag. And look at that, you have a zipper, a usable zipper for, what did we spend on that? 42 cents. That's pretty good. Okay, we need to go to the ironing board for just like a couple quick things.
Had to switch over to voiceover for this part because my husband took a call downstairs and it was getting really loud in our house. So take your zipper tabs, fold the edges in towards the middle, and then fold the whole thing in on itself so that all the raw edges are completely concealed. These will go on the ends of your zippers. Then grab the lanyard and cut the hardware off of it, and you can fold the long edge of your wristlet in on itself with the pretty sides touching.
Let's take stock of what we've got. We've got the main piece, and I've got it clipped to my dish drying mat. I've got 2 of those. 2 of our shower curtain pieces that are going to be the lining of the bag. My hardware that I cut off of the lanyard, and my strap, which I ironed pretty sides together, and we're about to sew that. I've got a zipper that I ripped off the mesh bag, and then I've got 2 zipper tabs. So let's start with the zipper tabs. Check and see. So the bag width is 12 inches across. My zipper is actually a little bit long for this project. It's passing the end of the bag, and I don't want it to do that. So I'm gonna trim an inch off, and let's see what happens. I want it to be a little bit shorter than the bag because we're putting the zipper tabs on there, and you have to have room for those as well. So let's see, and I'm gonna also trim this end just a hair, not even like enough to measure, but just to get it even. Okay. Oh, that is much better. So it should be just about 1/2 inch shy of the end of each side of your bag. That would be perfect. Place your zipper tab just right on the end of your zipper, and it's okay if it's longer because you can trim it up. And you're just gonna sew a very simple little straight stitch across the top. Maybe 1/8 inch from the fold of your tabs. you want to catch both the top and the bottom of that tab in here. And I'm not using any special needles, any special presser feet. I'm using my regular zigzag foot on my machine. My needle is a universal 80-12, nothing crazy. And then just trim it so it's flush. And that's what you do with that one. And we're gonna do the same thing on the other end. Now, is it trickier? Maybe just a smidge. Pull that zipper all the way down, line up your ends, and for this one, you might wanna clip it in place so that it stays put as you sew it. Because with those open ends, it can get a little wonky and move around on you. And we don't want that, especially if you're just learning how to sew. Let's try and limit that frustration to, well, none if we can. Now you can take your clip off once you get it situated in the machine. Make sure you always start with a back stitch, which is a reverse stitch, or I don't know what else you could call it, back stitch, reverse stitch. That locks in your stitches and keeps them from unraveling, and it's important. Okay, and then we're going to trim off the excess on these ends. And you've created your zipper tabs. Lovely. You're all done with this for now. Put it away. All right. For the next step, we're going to go ahead and prep the wristlet. I folded this in half, and I'm going to sew a 1/4 inch seam down the raw edges of this wristlet, and that should fit. Actually, this is a little bit smaller, so when I held it up, it doesn't look like a 1/4 inch is going to work, so I'm going to put it at a 1/2 inch. You can hold it up and see. That's going to be perfect. So run those stitches straight down. I love the sound of a sewing machine, don't you? It feels like progress. Now you could cut this strap if you don't want to waste this extra little bit of fabric. You could cut the strap a little narrower. I wasn't sure how big this was when I grabbed it, so that's why I just made it a little extra large. And I need a safety pin for this next step. So the first thing I'm going to do is trim off the little excess I have on my seam side, because that'll make it easier to turn out when you're done. So trim that off. Take your safety pin and you're going to loop it through one side, and then just push it in there and ooch it down, zhush it up, wiggle, wiggle. It takes some maneuvering. This is so funny. I'm teaching my daughter how to sew, and she can sew like shirts. She's made pajama pants. I'm going to start working on her first quilt with her soon. She can't do this. She cannot for the life of her mentally get around pushing and pulling fabric down the safety pin. It's so funny. Funny how our brains work on some things and just don't on others. I want you to tuck a little edge in. And this will come in handy later. So roll that one end in. Okay. Well, heck, let's just finish making the wristlet right now. Why not? We're gonna roll that one end in, and let's press this down so your seam is running down the middle of the back side. So when you turn it, it's just pretty. And then make sure you roll that little edge in. See how I did it? It's like a 1/4 inch in there, because we are going to be tucking this in at the end of this. So let's take this to the ironing board. Just get it nice and flat. We're going to just string it on here. Tuck your raw edge into the nice pretty edge. Just like this. Push it in there as much as it'll go. And then we're just going to top stitch right along this crease. Like easy peasy, y'all. Okay, here's another little trick you can do to hold this wristlet in place and to sort of hide this unsightly seam. first trim all your threads off. And then you can run this metal piece over to where this seam is and kind of fold it down like so. And then just sew again over those little stitches. You might have to pull it up just a smidge so you can actually sew it and you don't sew over metal, because that'd be bad. This will keep your metal in place, which is kind of nice. It's not flipping and flopping all around. And you could always top stitch this wristlet if you want to be extra fancy. I have no problem with that. Okay, the wristlet is done. How cute is that? Now, we're going to use this little ring later on in the project, which reminds me, we forgot to cut one thing. Always something, right? We need to cut one more 2" by 3" piece of fabric because we're going to use it as a little zipper tab, or as a hardware tab for that little ring we have there. And this isn't actually this is 2 by 2.5 inches, and that's fine. So I'm not going to show how to iron this, but you're just basically going to fold it the way you did the other one. You don't even have to iron it if you don't want to. You can just finger press it, get those raw edges in, and we're just going to top stitch it really quick. Do you hear the birds chirping? I have my window open. I like to feel close to nature when I'm sewing. There we go. I'm doing this about 1/8 of an inch from the edge of my fabric. You can do it wherever you want. It's your world. And then just turn it and repeat that on the other side, not the same side. This pink thread is like ombre, and I think that's kind of good. There you go. Look at that. That's going to be your tab for your ring. Okay. Now, we are going to quilt the bag. And the reason we're doing that, because you may be like, I don't want to quilt the bag. I mean, you could skip this step, but then this is not going to be attached to this, like in the body of your bag, and that might be weird. So here's a little trick for this. I'm not going to sew with this side up because it's so nubby. I don't know the right word. But I am going to sew on my side with my dish drying mat because that I know will not be so bad. We're just going to start, I don't know, let's do a 1/2 inch. I'm going to up my stitch length a little bit for this too because then it won't take as long. And get our thread in there. Do you hear the cicadas outside? We are cicada central right now. And you can space these lines as much as you want. This actually has, is it going down straight? Kind of. This has little lines on it already, so I may just follow the lines. You can separate your lines as far apart as you want. Let's do, I don't know, we'll see how this goes. Might be a disaster. You can also get a laser light to accurately measure your stitches apart from each other, or you could use your walking foot, which would be great for this project. And I may end up switching to my walking foot, but I was trying to show you, and I think it'll be fine, that you can do this with just a regular zigzag foot. The main thing about this kind of sewing is don't let the fabric boss you around. You have to be the boss of the fabric. Oh, that's cute. Little straight lines. I'm just gonna follow these cubes. So while I quilt this, let's talk. So how many did I do? 2.5. So we'll do this little line. Yeah, I think it's will be fine. A lot of people ask, where did you learn how to sew? I learned in home ec class when I was 15 or 16 years old, 15. And I had a wonderful home ec teacher. She was amazing. She still comments on my page, on my Facebook page occasionally, and I feel like I don't know, a celebrity when she does, because she's my favorite. But she was always of the like mental state of just try it, see what happens. Like, let's just see how it goes, right? Like, and that gave me a lot of courage to take on projects that maybe I wasn't quite ready for, but she was always behind me. And so I guess my point is, I sort of want to be that for you guys. Like, I don't want you to feel afraid to try sewing, whatever level that is for you. So if you are just learning how to sew and this project scares you, maybe we take it a step back further and you start with something like a pillow where it's just 4 seams. But if there are things that you'd like to learn how to sew, but you've always been a little afraid of, please feel free to drop that information in the comments, because I want to be able to do things for you to feel empowered. And the reason I'm doing this budget sewing is because things are expensive now. Like life, my husband and I were talking about this the other day. Life in general is just, since 2020, nuts with how much you have to pay for things. Groceries and gas and just everything. And a lot of people moved during COVID and gotten those big interest rates, and I don't know, just, so I'm trying to give you options to learn how to do things on a dime, so that you're A, not afraid of like investing a ton of money and then it not turning out the way that you wanted, but B, you just can make a bunch of them if you want. Maybe you spread a little kindness too, like maybe because you have extra materials, you make something for your neighbor or your friend or somebody who's going through a tough time. Teacher gifts, I don't know. I think kindness is underrated and we can never have enough of it. This is coming along. Oops, did I get a little, looks like I got a little bump in my fabric, but you can kind of just smooth it out with your hand. It's not really that big of a deal. I think these lines are kind of cute. You could do like cross lines too, but I'm not gonna do that for this project. You could if you wanted to, that's what I'm saying. All right. I'm gonna keep quilting this because I also have another one to go. But I'll come back when I'm done and show you what we came up with, because this probably isn't that interesting to you to watch. I'm bored watching it. I guess my point is, like, it's sort of a necessary evil. It does connect the 2 fabrics and it will make the rest of your project easy. So I wouldn't skip this step, but I just try and do it as painlessly as possible. You can do literally any stitch you want on here. Baby stitches, you could just freehand it. Whatever, man. All right, I'll check back in a few minutes once I'm done with both of our quilted fronts and backs, and then we will move forward on the bag. We are all done quilting our pieces, and I think that turned out really cute. Even if you've never quilted anything, you can't tell me that you don't pull these out and you're like, oh, that's kind of great. I'm pretty awesome, because you should feel that way. Look at all my thread. This is my daily look. It's time to put the zippers on. Trim off any threads you have hanging around. And also, if your fabric kind of like went a little wonky, don't stress it, just cut it. I'm not gonna worry about it. We're just gonna trim that off and pretend like it never happened. Because this pink fabric, this fuzzy stuff, is kind of stretchy. So if it's stretched a little bit, look at this little friend here. Pick a side, pick a lane, where you wanna be. All right, take your zipper and decide which way you want your zipper to open. So like for me, this is my left side, but maybe look to the right. And I want my zipper to start from the left and go to the right. So when I'm like holding the bag, it's gonna go right. Lay it pretty side down. Let me show you what I'm doing. Take your bag pretty side up, your main piece. Lay the zipper pretty side down. Take your lining piece and lay that pretty side down. We're making a zipper sandwich here. Carefully pin all of that together without moving it all around, because you want to keep those measurements crisp and precise. And pin it all the way down. If it's not quite even, don't be afraid to move those clips around and try again. Let's see here. I think that looks pretty good. Let me clip it and I'll show you. So this is what it should look like. And we're gonna sew with our zipper foot, if you're feeling daring enough, right down here. If you don't feel like a zipper foot is something you wanna try yet, just do your regular zigzag foot and sew as close as you can to that zipper without crossing over. If you cross over the zipper tape and teeth, you won't be able to use the zipper. This is a zipper foot. Isn't it cute? I'm gonna load that on my machine. I'm obsessed with this thread color. It's like pink and orange ombre, which my favorite colors are pink and orange, so that's probably why. It's a shame you can't see it better. Oh well. Okay. So I'm gonna start sewing. Start with the back stitch. And you are sewing some weird stuff, right? There's actually nothing normal that you're sewing on this project right now. So go slow. Watch out for your fingers. Don't get them too stuck in there where you sew over them, because that's a trip to the hospital and a tetanus shot, mind you. But you can also use, if you have an awl, this is an awl or a stiletto, some people call it, and that helps. You can lay it right down in front and push it through. And also this zipper at this angle, and then I'll turn the camera so you can see it again from a different angle, and maybe that'll be helpful to you as well. Once you start getting some through the back end, you can pull it better. And again, y'all, it doesn't have to be perfect, especially if you're just starting out. I just want you to get the basics and just start feeling more fearless in the sewing room. I think that's the #1 hurdle that new sewists have to come over and figure out, is just feeling nervous and scared and like, I don't know how I'm doing this, and I don't know if it's going to be right, and I spent all this money on fabric and I don't want to mess it up. That's where I come in. That's why these budget friendly projects are so great, because if this turns out completely terrible, which it won't, I'm moving my zipper right now, and I'll show you this again when I sew it the second time. You have to move your zipper pull out of the way. So you stop and you lift your presser foot up and move that zipper down. You have to kind of ooch it. But anyway, if it doesn't turn out quite to your liking, you could go back to Dollar Tree and get, $5 worth more of materials, or just say, you know what, this is not for me, and be done. Back stitch at the end. Okay, and this is what you will have. It looks a little weird, okay? I know that. Now, fold this down. We're not gonna iron it because that will melt our shower curtain, but you can clip it. And you wanna kind of push this down, because what we're gonna do next is I'm going to top stitch right along this top edge. And I do this for 2 reasons. First of all, it looks nice. Second of all, it's gonna hold this lining down from getting stuck in the zipper teeth. So make sure you push this down with your fingers and then clip it. And you can switch back to your zigzag foot for this. Yep, sewing, you may not have realized, is all about switching your feet out all the time. Because once you start learning how to use each foot and why they're helpful, sewing gets a lot easier. They're there for a reason, surprisingly. Now, your machine probably comes with quite a few, but there are also some other ones you can get. If you want a full set of presser feet for your machine, some of the weirder ones, like maybe like a rolled hem foot in a couple different sizes, or a walking foot, that's a great thing to have and would be perfect for this project. Overcast foot, all these different types of feet. That's another thing that I have in my Amazon store. I'm not trying to be all salesy, but I try to put it all in one place so that you can quickly reference it and be like, oh, that's what she was using. Literally, like, everything I use is on that list. The link's in my bio, and I guess I'm also obligated to disclose that I am an Amazon affiliate, so I may earn a small commission from your purchases, but that is at no cost to you whatsoever. Get the legal stuff out of the way. Okay. Top stitched. Might not hurt to just run that zipper back and forth a few times. Make sure that you didn't catch it anywhere. And this side is as good as done. Let's repeat that whole thing on the other side. And I'm gonna move my camera. I'm gonna stop the film and I'm gonna move the camera to where you can see my machine a little bit better in case that's helpful to you. I'm going to lay this piece with the zipper pretty side down with about a 1/2 or 1/4 inch on either side. And take your lining and lay that on there as well. Clip it all together, and this is thick. This is going to be interesting to see how this turns out. I like it. I think it'll feel very soft. Now you will have to move your zipper pull to get started. So just find it and we can move it as we go. And now all my stuff just shifted. So let me move that back up. Stinky zipper tab causing trouble. There. I'm going to sew right along here with that zipper foot. Here we go. Start with your back stitch. You might want to grab that awl like I'm using here and just sort of lay it right in front of where you're going. But make sure you move it before your needle hits it. This is a really helpful tool to have. It's small and pointy, so it pushes everything through without risking your finger getting under the needle. I think that's another big fear of new sewists is like sewing through your finger. And it happens, y'all. I've seen many an injury, and they are not pretty. So please be careful when you are sewing. As I said earlier, I'm teaching my daughter how to sew right now, and that is the one thing I will never do is leave her unattended for even a second, just even to like turn and get a sip of water. If she is running the machine, my eyes are on her. Because that is not a fun injury. All right, we're getting close to that zipper pull. So I'm gonna lift my fabric up, grab the pull. This feels so soft. I think it's gonna turn out neat. I like the way it feels. And then zip it down. You could even use regular fabric instead of this shower curtain liner and just give this as a gift to like a little kid. They would probably love the squishy. You could put like a couple books in it or make it make an activity bag for the car. Something soft where they can hold it in their lap. Oh my gosh. Maybe that's my next project is like summer activity bags for when we travel. Now look at this, y'all. That is massive. But your machine can handle it, okay? So don't stress out. This is what it should look like now, okay? And make sure you're pulling that lining down because now we're gonna switch back to our zigzag foot. And top stitch this other side, and then we're almost done. This bag comes together real fast. So pull that lining down from the back. Get it nice up under that needle. And I would keep your hand right nearby where you're constantly pushing that lining down because the tendency of this plastic is it's going to want to do what it wants to. And you got to tell it where to go. You can't have spaghetti hands when you're sewing. You got to have nice, sure, I know what I'm doing hands. Even if you don't. Fake it till you make it. Okay, I'm going to move my zipper pull. Sometimes we need a little extra lift. There you go. If you pull up on your presser foot lever, it'll go up a little higher for you, just a smidge to usually get whatever's stuck under it unstuck. And that's nice. Okay, remember, this top stitch is to look pretty, but it's holding that lining down. That's why you're trying to ooch it with your hand as you go, because you really don't want that stuck in the teeth, especially with this material, because shower curtain liners tend to rip, right? They're not terribly strong the way like a cotton would be. if you were lining it with quilting cotton. So there is a bit of fragility in our materials here, but also it's cheap. So if you mess up, you just make it again. Okay, let's turn the camera and I'm going to show you the next step. Remember that little tab we made that was for the hardware to hold on to? It's time to put that on the bag because we're about to sew this whole thing together. Fold it in half with the pretty sides out. And grab just one layer, don't grab the lining, and figure out where you want this hardware and the wristlet to go. So if this is where my zipper is gonna, this is kind of what the bag will look like once it's sewn. I think I want the wristlet to come out closer to the top. So I'm gonna put it facing down into the bag, maybe 2.5 inches from the top, and I'm just gonna baste it there. You can put it wherever you want, truly. Just make sure that you attach it to only that one part of the fabric and just do a basting stitch. It doesn't have to be some crazy permanent stitch because we just need to hold it in place for a minute. See how I did that? Great. Now, take these two main pieces and match them up. This is thick. We're gonna see if we can't do it, then you'll get a quick little tutorial on a walking foot. But I am still trying to show you things that you can do on your machine. And we're just gonna clip around the edges. Now you could, if you wanted to, box the corners of this bag, which means you would cut some of the corner out and then we would sew it a little bit differently. I don't think this bag for me needs to stand up, and I'm trying to keep this extremely beginner friendly. And boxing corners might be, you know, maybe a step up for you. So at the risk of not stressing you all out, we're just gonna leave the pouch with the bottom as it is. Sure. Now, one part that we are not gonna sew, we are gonna sew the perimeter here, but we are going to skip the middle part. So I'm gonna sew in about 2 inches on the lining and another 2 inches on this side of the lining and leave this area open because that's where we're gonna turn the bag right side out. And I would leave a fairly large hole on this. Like maybe sew 1 inch to 1.5 inches in on each side like this. But you're gonna need some space, and this stuff rips easily, so you don't wanna like pull it to the point where it rips. Let's just be careful. I'm gonna sew this with a 1/4 inch seam all the way around, and I'm gonna start at the lining because that's where I'm gonna stop as well. Okay. Make sure you use a back stitch. Here we go. So when you get to those corners, lift your presser foot and turn the whole bag. Lower your presser foot, press on. Keep your hand on top of this working area because it can bubble up very easily and that'll throw your whole bag off. So try and keep everything taut. You can move your clips down as you go, or you can just remove them completely. We are approaching the large part. Let's see how this goes. Flatten it as much as you can with your fingers and go slow. When I bought this Brother Inovis 8 years ago, the thing that sold me on it is, and you can see it's just plowing through this right now. She took, the saleswoman, they're not in business anymore where I got this, but she took a pair of jeans, or a piece of denim from a pair of jeans, I should say, and she folded it over, I don't know, like 5 or 6 times. And she was like, sew it, see what happens. And this thing plowed right through it. And most machines nowadays are meant to handle a little bit more heavy duty stuff without even having the heavy duty label on it. Just because there's so many different materials now that you can sew with. And a lot of people do sew with denim, or they need to hem jeans or whatever. So machines are pretty capable. If you have an older machine, I would definitely switch to a walking foot for this. And I have tutorials on that on my page if that's interesting to you. I'm gonna go. Nope, I'm gonna turn right there. That's a good spot. Keep flattening it out with your fingers. Take your time on this step. If you're brand new, don't stress if this takes you a while. It's also good to double check that your bobbin and your thread have a lot on them before you start one of these, because you want that thread to try and not have any breaks in it. Those breaks, when you have to like stop and then backstitch and restart, they can tend to weaken things just a little bit. Turn it again, and we're heading down the home stretch. Are we having fun yet? Listen, if you've made it this far in this tutorial, I am super proud of you, and I'm gonna need you to send me some pictures of your bags. A lot of you had asked me, like, have you seen that fuzzy fabric at Dollar Tree? What do you make with that? And I thought about making one of those warmies, like a little stuffed animal, but it's polyester fabric, so you can't put it in the oven, or not the oven, the microwave. So, and that's the fun of those, is putting like something in it. Maybe smells like lavender and it's rice or whatever for a little kid to snuggle with. So I didn't do that because that felt like a bad idea. We don't want to blow up the microwave. Okay, we made it through that tough part. It's all downhill from here. Try and keep that 1/4 inch seam allowance the whole way around so it's nice and even. And remember, when you come back down to this lining, we're only sewing in maybe 1.5 inches. I need some space to turn this bag out. So back stitch, make sure it's nice and strong. And the next thing we're gonna do is trim off our corners. This is gonna give you nice popped corners when you turn the bag right side out. So you're gonna trim just as close to that thread as you feel comfortable without cutting through it, because that's bad. And I've cut through many a share of threads on these corners. You can cut your corners on your lining as well if you like. All right, moment of truth. Carefully reach in and carefully pull it out. You could start by maybe grabbing one of your corners and pulling that out first. That seems to work pretty well. I'm glad I left this hole nice and big, because if it was small, it would be ripping my... And be gentle with your hands. If you've got like rings on that are pointy or like long nails, just be really careful. Which, this isn't fragile once it's sewn. It's just right now when you're messing with all this lining, you know, it is what it is. Pop those corners out. And then reach in, and you're gonna pop this little area, and you'll be so glad you made that zipper tab, because it's popping out right there and it makes the turning so easy. And do that on the other side. And you can use a knitting needle, a chopstick, just something with a little bit more of a blunt end to push through those corners. I like to stick my finger right in the corner and then punch it out. Y'all, this is cute. I love this. And before we close things up, we do need to do just an eye scan of your seams. Because this was such a finicky fabric, I'm just gonna like push my seams out and double check that everything made it into my seam allowance, because now is the time to fix that, not when you close your lining. So you've got your tab there. It feels so good. I love this. I'm so glad we did this today. It was kind of an off-the-cuff idea, but I hope you make these. These are fun. Oh my gosh, I'm a mess. Okay, last step, we need to close up that lining. So fold it down. You can use clips to hold it in place, or you can just fold it as you go. Again, it's a little tricky because you can't iron it to press it down. So boss that fabric around. Don't you take no for an answer from this fabric. And sew across. Now again, is this waterproof? If you stick like a sopping wet bathing suit in it, no. But if you take a minute and wring out your bathing suit, as I would hope you would if you're leaving the pool, because it's gonna get all over your car if you don't. Wring out that bathing suit and stick it in here. You'll be fine to get home. And again, I think this would be so cute as a makeup bag because you can wipe it out. Or, like I said, it's so fuzzy and soft. Make it a little activity bag and give it to like your nephew or niece or grandchild or your own child as a little plush activity bag. Put some colored pencils in there or snacks. I don't know, something sweet. It's nice to give things to people. Okay, double back with your reverse stitch. We're gonna trim just that little thread right there. I'm excited. And then this one. All right. Now, open it up. Get it in those corners. Poke it in there. This is a nice size bag. It would definitely fit a swimsuit, among other things. Whatever you want to carry in here. Plus, it's soft. I'm sorry I keep laughing, but it just feels so good. I really like it. Okay, trim all your threads. Let's make sure our zipper works. Works like a dream. So there's your inside of your bag. All that room to put things. Makeup. What else could you put in here? Gosh, anything. Okay, moving my lining out. And then the last thing, we're just gonna put that ring right on here. I'm so glad we made the wristlet at the beginning because now I don't feel like making the wristlet and it's already done. So that's nice. So twist this on. I feel like a teen would love this bag. My daughter is gonna fight me for this bag. And there it is. Look at you, you sewing genius. You made a fuzzy bag, a fuzzy wet bag at that. I think this is nice. What do y'all think? Let me know in the comments. Is this something that you would make for yourself, or who would you make it for? And do you like the fuzzy fabric, or does that stress you out? Give me your thoughts and opinions. Let me know if there's other stuff that you want to see me make. This was a fun tutorial. I think this will be a really good one for beginners, but it'll also be a good challenge. So again, if this material stresses you out, this entire bag you can do and switch this pink material out for just a regular quilting cotton. You can still use the dish drying mat, you still quilt it. Literally everything is the same except that one step. And that might take some of the stress out for you. But if you are looking for a challenge, pick up some of these little fuzzy, I think people just don't know what to do with these because my Dollar Tree has not sold a whole lot of them. But hopefully now this will sell them out because everybody needs a fuzzy bag. I am convinced. I can't get over how soft this is. Anyway, I'm Chelsea with She Sews Seams. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for your support of these videos. I'm having such a fun time making them. And stay tuned for more coming down the road.